Hi, I'm the Smoking Elk, and today I'm going to be cooking some jerk pork wraps with a charred corn and pineapple salsa in my brand new shack. So today I'm going to be putting some jerk flavours on this lovely pork shoulder. Now, this isn't a huge pork shoulder, this is actually a pork shoulder joint from a supermarket. It's boneless, it's got skin on, so you want to remove the skin like I did earlier. And what we're going to do with this, we're going to put a lovely jerk marinade on there. So I've got all the flavours you'd associate with jerk. Obviously Scotch bonnet, we've got some spring onion, thyme, allspice, cinnamon and nutmeg for those lovely earthy flavours. Obviously some ginger, garlic and lime. So we're going to start by setting this to one side, and we're going to start with some spring onions, and we're going to blend all this up. It's a really nice, easy jerk marinade. So just roughly chop 4 spring onions like that and just chuck them into a blender. Garlic, I've got 4 big cloves of garlic here, so just roughly chop and into the blender. Piece of ginger, couple of inch piece here, roughly chop it into the blender. We want some soy sauce in there, so we're going to go in with about 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. So in that goes, that's about 4 tablespoons there. And the same with white vinegar, about 4 tablespoons of white vinegar. A red onion, again just roughly chop. Remember, it's going in the blender, so you don't have to worry too much about your chopping skills. In that goes juice of a lime. So we're just going to go ahead and squeeze that into there like so. We want some fresh thyme in there, so got a few sprigs here. Don't worry about taking the stalks off here. Remember, it's going to go in the blender and it's just going to be a marinade on that pork. So just roughly chop and chuck that in. Of course, no jerk is complete without some Scotch bonnets. I'm not going to seed these. You can seed them if you want. I prefer not to. I love a bit of a kick. So roughly chop those. Obviously be careful when you're handling these. They are very hot. So in they go. And then of course we want some spices in there. So I'm going to go in with about a teaspoon of allspice, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and about a teaspoon of nutmeg. We want to go in with some salt, of course, some pepper, around about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of cracked black pepper. And then you want 2 or 3 tablespoons of dark brown sugar in there. In that goes. And then oil, I've got some rapeseed oil here. You want to just put some in. Remember, we want this to be a consistency that we can rub all over that pork. So just put it in, blend it, and once you've got a nice thick consistency that you can spread over the pork, we're done. So I'm going to get this in the blender, get it blended up and smother it all over that pork. So that's the marinade all over the pork, and I've got to say it smells delicious already. So I'm going to be cooking this in my Kamado Joe Classic 3 here. You can cook it anywhere between 275 and 300 Fahrenheit. 300 Fahrenheit is about 150 Celsius. Don't get too hung up on your pit temperature because pork is very forgiving. So that's the pork. I'm going to monitor the cook using my Thermopen dot. Now this has a probe that goes right into the centre of that meat, and it's going to monitor the temperature throughout the cook. So I don't have to keep lifting the lid and taking the temperature and seeing how we're getting on. So I've set an alarm on here for 90 degrees Celsius. With pork, I want to get this to a stage where we're going to pull the pork. So anywhere between 90 and 95 Celsius is about the sweet spot for that. So once my alarm goes off on the dot at 90, I'm going to start probing it for tenderness. And then what I mean by that is we're going to put this Thermopen one, we're just going to poke it through like that. And if it goes through with little to no resistance, then I know that is done and that is ready to pull. So got some applewood rolling in the Kamado Joe. Let's introduce this pork to some smoke. So the pork, as you've seen, is nearly done. That's been cooking away nicely at around about 280 to 300. We're at about an internal temperature of 89 at the minute, so we're not far off now. Just pop some corn on the cob in there, just to kind of, oh, there we go. Look, there's my thermopen dot telling me that that's at 90 degrees. Spot on. So we're gonna start probing that pork in a minute. What we wanna do, we wanna make a salsa. So I've got my corn here. I'm just gonna char on the Joe Junior. We've got direct heat over the charcoal. So we're gonna char the corn, get some lovely colour on there. Tomatoes, we're gonna do the same. We're gonna get this pepper nice and blistered over the coals, and I'm gonna caramelise this pineapple. So gonna crack on, get all that done, come back, chop these bits up. We take the pork out, and then we'll crack on and build the rest of the dish. Right, so we've made the salsa, this beautiful, colourful salsa. Now you've seen I put the pepper directly on the coals to get that blistering on the pepper, taking it off, remove the skin and chop that up and put it in there along with, same with the tomatoes and the chilli. The corn we've just charred slightly, cut it off, put it into the salsa, and then we've gone in with some red onion. We've got some honey in there and some coriander and some other bits and pieces in there, which has given us this lovely salsa that's going to cut through this jerk pork wonderfully. Now, the alarm went off on my dot at 90 degrees. Started probing it with my Thermopen 1 when it hit 90, and we've finally taken it off at 95 when it's nice and tender and perfect for me to just pull that apart. Now, we're gonna pull it apart now, put it in the wraps with the salsa, so let's crack on. And there we go, these look absolutely delicious. I don't think I can wait any longer. We've put the jerk pork in there, it's pulled away really nicely with that salsa. Finish it off with a bit of sriracha mayo into a wrap. These look absolutely banging. So I'm the Smoking Elk. I really, really hope you'll give these a go, and I'll see you again soon. Happy days.